I'm going to work through the PreQuiz 3.2 on projectile motion for Physics G here. And so let's do the first part here. A ball rolls. So this will be this. In this video, I'm going to do 1 through 3, and then I'll do a separate video for 4 and 5. So 1 through 3, a ball rolls off the edge of a cliff with a purely horizontal velocity, strikes the ground 3.14 seconds later, a distance of something from the cliff. And all the skill sets will give you different things for this. We'll mix it up, but let's just write down what we've got. We've got a cliff, right? It goes off. Initially, it's got a purely horizontal velocity. It's going to follow some trajectory and apparently lands 37.1 meters from the edge of the cliff, right? Okay, and it takes 3.14 seconds. Right, so what we want to do is set up a table like this and solve horizontal stuff and vertical stuff. Right. And then for this one, the 3.14 seconds is our time, so that goes here. And that's our time for both sides. Our acceleration, and this is always true, every single projectile motion problem we'll solve will be like this. Now if we go to a different planet, it might be some other acceleration of gravity, right? Okay. And then because it's a cliff problem, because it's a purely horizontal velocity, right? Because that's purely horizontal, what that means is that it's all this and none of this. So this guy's 0. And that's true for cliff problems, right? Okay. So how high is the cliff? It looks like we can solve that vertically, right? Our final velocity, we got to solve that because that's going to be part of this answer here. So the next step is to fill in these things that we have, right? And so I'm going to use the equation. I'm going to use, what do I use? I'm going to use VF equals VI plus AT to solve this one. Right, so that's going to be 0. That's my, and remember when you do these, you got to use all this side, right? So 0 plus negative 9.8 times 3.14, right? Okay. And so let's type that into the calculator here. 0 plus negative 9.8 times, and that's negative 30.772 meters per second, right? And then I can solve this x here. I can use x is VIT plus 1/2 AT squared, that formula, right? And since the initial velocity is 0, this guy goes away, right? So it's 1/2 negative 9.8 times 3.14 squared, right? So 0.5 times negative 9.8 times 3.14 squared. That's 314 squared, okay. Right, and I get that x is negative 48.3 meters tall. Okay, that's our vertical displacement. It means the ball from here to here went down 48.3 meters. Which means that, of course, the cliff is 48.3 meters tall, right? Okay. The ball's horizontal velocity, well, that x, we forgot to put it in there, but the 37.1 goes right here. Right, that's a horizontal x. And now we can, this side here, the horizontal side is always just a triangle problem, like this, right, where we've got x and v and t, right, and the velocity is, in this case, you just cover up the v, right, the velocity is x divided by t, right, so I'm just going to go 37.1 divided by 3.14, I could have calculated that, so 11.81, I'll go 11.82, right, and this guy is also 11.82, that's because there's no acceleration horizontally, right? And there never is, right? Since it can't change, it just stays constant like that, right? So the horizontal velocity is 11.8 meters per second, right? Now, speed of impact, speed is a key word here, a code, right, as it were, right? Okay, by speed we mean the hypotenuse of the final velocity vector. That's this guy here, right? We started off going 11.82 and not at all up and down because it was a purely horizontal velocity. But by the time we got to the ground 3.14 seconds later, the thing's moving down now, okay? So the velocity just before they hit the ground is over 11.82. And simultaneously you're moving down. I'm going to draw a much longer line, 30.772, right? The speed is just simply the hypotenuse there. So it's going to be square root of 11.82 squared plus 30.772 squared, right? And you can just do that all in one fell swoop. Square root of 11.82 squared plus 30.772 squared. Ta-da, 32.96. So this guy, the speed is 32.96, and it looks like I rounded to like 3 digits here. And if you rounded that to 3, you'd have to say that the speed was 33.0 meters per second. Okay, so that's a cliff problem. And the way that the skill set will work is that, of course, I'll give you a bunch of different things here. But they'll always one side will be solvable. Time, you can bring time across. If you ever figure out time on one side, you can switch the time across. The acceleration will always be 0, like that. These guys will always be the same. Whatever that is the same as this, right? And then on these cliff problems, it's not true down here on this problem, okay? But on the cliff problems, the initial velocity here will always be 0.